Right, Simon.
Thank you so much for inviting me first. Thank you. I'm very
No,
honoured.
no, I'm really looking forward to this. Who were you to start with? Where were your music stuff or your training and everything? Where did that all first come about, or how did it come about?
You mean from the very beginning, or... Ah, okay. That far back. Okay.
Oh.
Jolly good, jolly good. Yeah, no problem. I came from a very musical background. I've got my mother's side is very artistic, and I was born in Scotland actually, so I'm Scottish. But my parents both sang in amateur dramatic opera at a place called Haddo House, which is where Lady Aberdeen had her kind of gaff, and it's more than a gaff really, but anyway, so I was looked after by Lady Aberdeen's butler when my parents were singing. So I was very lucky as a child. I kind of got a really great musical upbringing. Then I moved to Kenya, and then my father's a scientist,
right?
And I started there, and then started playing the recorder, and like everyone does. But there was a summer course for music that the head mistress of the school had put on, and there was a girl who stood next to me, and I was playing the recorder as you do, and she was playing the violin, and I fancy the pants off. So I was just like, it all started from there basically. It was just like music and women, and women, beer, music, women, eventually. Women and wine, and song, and that kind of stuff. But anyway, so I had my education at the Royal Northern in Manchester. Long story short, I was at the junior school there, and then I graduated in 1992. Would you believe? Then I went to because I trained as a classical a violinist and viola player and pianist. And I'd always wanted to be a conductor, but there's only two routes you can traditionally go into becoming a conductor, and that's either you go into opera or you go down the orchestral route. And because I was a player, it was more natural for me. So then I went to the Hong Kong Philharmonic for 4 years. I was in Hong Kong when it was still a British colony, which was really great. But as I tell everyone needs a party orchestra. So I basically spent all the I literally was throwing money, and I burnt it as fast as I could get it. And literally lived a high life for 4 years with like expats and like just before 97 when it changed. And then I decided to sort of grow up a bit and like clean up my act. And went back to studying at the Vienna Conservatoire. So I'd had a scholarship to go and study in Vienna. So I sort of that wasn't possible anymore. So I took it up again, and I went to Vienna for 4 years. Another diplomatic stint. But I always kind of knew that I would return back to the UK, and Manchester is, as you probably know, is a wonderful musical hub. It's detached from anywhere else really, in that it's not as big as London, but it's big enough that it attracts people from internationally. So I was awakened though when I was a student in 1991 because I was always into rock and sort of blues, because my father always, probably a bit like you, your father or mother had records, and massive record collection. So I kind of Deep Purple, Beach Boys, the King Singers, Mozart.
I definitely had the Beach Boys.
Okay. I apologize for that. No, so basically I had a very eclectic musical upbringing, as well as being. But I think what was great was that I needed something to formalize my music education. So it didn't really matter if I was going to be a metal musician or a composer or whatever. You kind of needed like one thing to have as a discipline. So violin just happened to be my discipline. But I loved metal, and I loved rock, and I loved heavy stuff and dark, really kind of gritty kind of music, which I didn't really get into until 1991. And a friend of mine called Matt Connick, who was a guitarist at the college, he said, "Hey, Si, do you want to come and see this gig, Fields of the Nephilim at the Ritz?" I'm like, "Fields of who? What?" And I was like, he was like, "Wear black, mate. Wear black."
All right.
All right, okay, all right. Anyway, I'd completely forgotten about changing, and anyway, I turned up, and I looked very like a bit of a prep boy kind of thing, and just flick back hair, and I walk around the corner. And you probably know where the Ritz is, right, in Manchester.
Yeah.
And I walk around the corner, and it's just black. I'm like, what's going on, man? It's like literally the queues all the way around, to Oxford Road. And I was like, oh my God. And Matt, I can see Matt, it's over here. It's like, and all of his mates were, right, get him a tall t-shirt and pull it down to his knees. It's like, and anyway, so like the first before Fields of Nephilim started, and if you know the Ritz, it's got the bouncy, because it used to be a ballroom dance floor, and there was a punk band, I can't even remember the name of them, that started off, and all I remember are these really, really angry goths, like throwing coins, like filling cups of piss.
Yeah.
And I was like, and this was even before they started, but then the Dry Ice came on, and Carl McCoy comes on stage, and I'm like, and everyone's doing all this kind of stuff, and I'm like, holy shit, man. Whoa, dude! Whoa! And it's just it's a magical experience, and he was all the sort of dark arts and just all these things sort of came into this melting pot and just went bam right at me. I was like, holy, just couldn't. It was just too much, cerebrally to take in. Anyway, so that was the first time, and then my kind of record collection got a lot darker and a lot heavier, and Mozart and all that kind of stuff, and Brahms and Bruckner tended to sort of like I was like, right, I want some Anthrax, I want some just whatever I could get my hands on. So what happened was then I came back to the UK, and I came back to Manchester, so hence Manchester, because I felt it was kind of a second, a real home from home, although I didn't really know where my home was, because I've moved all around the place. So I was like, right, I need a bass, and I decided on Manchester because of the music scene, and because of the BBC Philharmonic, because it's such a great orchestra, and I was like, well, look, I can kind of do both. I can do metal and orchestral, and that's I've always had this sort of yin yang of the orchestral and the extreme. Okay, so then I was in the BBC Philharmonic, but then I started to like joining bands, and Grand Central was kind of like the pub, and like you met like, and then just ended up becoming I joined an incredible band called Donker Carnuffle, which is a London-based a clown called death metal band. So there was me like with like razor sharp teeth there, thing like blood dripping down like evil little clown nose, in one hand, and then I'm a professional violinist. and I was like keeping the two separate, because I didn't want each one to know each other about and one another, each side to know about each other. So it was a very dualistic kind of way of life.
Well, it is because you've heard of Nash the Slash. Did you ever hear Nash the Slash?
Nash the Slash.
Yeah, Nash the Slash.
No.
Ah, well, Google him, man. He was a really good friend of mine, and
okay, Nash the Slash. I have to write it down.
He same as yourself. He loved electric violins, mandolins, but he had to play it rock. You know,
Yeah.
Google, see what. Some of it's great, some of it's hit and miss.
Yeah, totally. This is from my research as well.
Well, you won't. You'll definitely know when you see him because he's all well. He died a few years back, but he's all bandaged up.
Okay.
A bit like the Invisible Man, really. He actually toured with Gary back in the day, so yeah. But
well, what is fascinating for me as well is because I watched a couple of your videos, and it was Aid, and your guy in Atlanta. Sorry.
Andy,
yeah. I mean,
Andy Riley.
Yeah, because one of the Numan fans just before the Albert Hall's gig that Gary did last year, or was it the year before?
Oh, he put the year before now.
Yeah. Came up, and he basically does a bit like you, but he gets everyone's names and like history and background, but I think it's all magazine based.
Yeah,
but it's fascinating how many people have worked with Gary.
Indeed, and I keep finding more people all the time. So that's really good. Well, those who are still alive, but yeah. But sorry, I cut you in your stride of your heavy milk.
No, not at all. No. I haven't been asked about that sort of side of it for a long time, so I'm like.
But it's actually, if you listen to some of Nash's stuff, it's because he, classically trained everything, but he had to put his violin through subs and pedals and just to change the noise. I mean, and by Christ,
who was the guy who was in oh God, who was on the tour? Who was what was his name? That's going to be awful. Who warmed up for us? Who was in?
I don't know. I didn't manage to get to that show.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Oh, right. Oh God. Who did? It's Fade to Grey.
Chris Payne.
Chris Payne.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, sorry, he did. I knew he'd done London. I didn't know he'd done the others, which I should do. Good friends. And now I'm in trouble.
Yeah, he did the whole tour. Yeah, no, lovely guy. But I was more fascinated about talking about Visage. Was it Visage?
Yeah.
Yeah, and like how he, like wow.
Well, yeah, because that was just their sound check, wasn't it? The actual song "Fade to Grey."
Yeah,
I think it started out as, and I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was Toot City, and it was Chris, Billy Curry, and Cedric Sharpley used to have that for their sound check, and that's how the song. Well, once Midgeo got his hand on it. Right. So I'd like to hear.
I'm quite lucky that I was never in that sort of 80s, 90s kind of like melt pot of everyone trying to get as much money out of the business.
It was, but it was good. I like some of the rawness of it because I know I've said this many times. You didn't have huge multi-track systems. You basically had a 8 or 16 track, maybe a 32 if you were lucky. I knew there was ways over it, but
yeah.
So there was the rawness. I thought the early 80s was good. There was a lot going on.
Are you a musician yourself?
No. I could play a bit of bass, but not very good.
Oh, go. Right, because I'm a metal bassist, so that's.
I was on a radio interview and I said the first song I learned to play was "Walking on the Moon."
Oh, Sting.
Someone said to me, "I didn't know you could play bass." I said, "I can't." So we left it at that.
Yeah.
So,
at least you admitted it. That's
yeah. No, because someone might ask me.
Really strung it out. Yeah.
Then, when was the first time you really got into or heard Gary? Then.
Right. Okay. Well, it was interesting. This has a story connected to the tour because my very first single was "This Wreckage."
Oh right.
Which I had when I was 12. and what I did was I basically played it all the time, because my other in fact I found my other old record of Status Quo, 12 Gold Bars album, which was basically and Adam the Ants, you know, King of Frontier. So that basically between the three I sort of play but just scratch them into like so there's nothing left. And I was really upset because I loved that single, and so anyway, so that was kind of like and then obviously Cars and everything, you know. I didn't really you know, commercially, I mean, obviously I wasn't really into Gary at the time, but then God, it was in approximately in the early end of the 90s, I managed to get my hands on the Skin Mechanic.
Right, okay.
The actual CD, and I absolutely fell in love with it.
Really?
And then that was the only thing but that encompasses quite a lot, but live, and has that really great sort of real drive, and the audience, you can hear it like sort of egging him on, and he's egging them on, and it's like this sort of cyclic things, like, oh my God. And when he crank it up, it's like, oh yeah. But then I scratched that to hell, and then it's like,
as we did. I used to know where all the jumps were on my records.
Yeah. Because I mean, I've done it a few times where you just like, you can just push it a little bit, it'll jump to the next bit. So
I could sing the really jumps. Good. Have you ever done that? I actually used to sing the jumps where there'd be a jump in the record. I could actually go with the record and miss it. So
right. But mine kept going, you know, going back, and like, and unless I kicked it or something.
Oh no, mine used to jump. Sorry. So anyway,
no. So anyway, so that so I told Gary that story because when I was doing the orchestrations and the arrangements for the Savage, well, for the orchestral tour, he was in South America and on tour, and he went to North America, and he said he only had one day, I think, in LA to literally wash his clothes.
Yeah. And
he was terribly busy, and it was awfully difficult to get hold of him, because basically what would happen would I would get a whole string of A4 papers strung together, and I would listen to whatever song he decided on, and I would go through it, and I'd mark every single bar, and I would put in every single detail of what I would like to hear orchestrally, and then as a sort of like as a template, and then I would put that into Sibelius, the software, and then that would go to my co-writer Simon Withenshaw. I can't really, I'm not allowed to say the name, but it begins with W, and they used to make cartoons, and it's a very and they are big business, you know, huge business in the States, you know.
I think I've been there.
With and their brothers.
Yeah.
He wasn't allowed to say that, which was really, really unfortunate. He wasn't allowed to say anything about the fact that because he did 7 of the arrangements and I did 12.
Right.
But he wasn't allowed to have any of his name on anything. Really? And I said, look, so are you sure I can't give you a bow or something? And he was like, no, mate. I'm like, no, you take the applause, mate. I was like, fuck. so it was anyway. So so that was it was very difficult. So I would do that, and then he would Simon would make it sound good, and then with all his gear. And then I would send it to Gary, and then would wait a week before Gary got back to us when he'd had time, and say yes or no. Well, all that needs changing, that needs and then that would come back to me. Then I would sort of start all over again, and then go, well, like try and fix something, and then send it to Simon. Then he would send it to me, and then Gary didn't realize how long this was taking, this process. And it was it was the end of August. It was my birthday, and I actually was the first time that I sort of put my foot down. I actually said, look, I've got to talk to Gary. And I said, look, Gary, I really apologize. I know you're very, very busy, but we've got literally a month, well, 6 weeks before all the stuff that's in Sibelius has to go to the published, well, the guy who's going to be putting it all on music, you know, and putting it all in the score, because you know, otherwise we just have to leave it out. There's no option. And and he said, well, look, you know, I've still got, you know, one more track to decide on. And I was like, well, why don't you do this
this record?
This record. And I was just like, you know, why not?
Yeah.
And I told him the story, and he said, well, look, if you feel that strongly about it, we'll do it. And I was like, yeah. And so that became one of the, it was basically the encores that he hadn't chosen, because I mean, look, the guy's got thousands of tracks, as you know. I mean, songs that he could have chosen from, and he happened to choose these ones, and obviously he wanted to do Savage as well, and you know, bits of that. So I really take my hat off to him, and in actually being able to choose something that that can bring the audience, you know, in and out and up to the climax, and whoa, and then back down again, you know. But in a way, it's just one coherent 2 hours of you know, awesomeness. And
because it works well, because of the way it's been arranged with yourselves and the orchestra and everything, that all the tracks blend into the same sound, if you see what I'm sort of saying.
Well, one of the things that we hadn't sorted out at the beginning was, because like you know, the replicas at the beginning. Well, it took me 4 months to do that because of it kept changing and blah 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 blah. But it was because the transitions. I was wondering, like, do you want me to do transitions between each one, or are we doing, you know? And then it was the one between what was the one before Our Friends Electric? Was the one before Our Friends Electric? Yeah. And then into Our Friends Electric, it was like, oh, okay, so I'm only doing 2. But then I spoke to PRS and said, well, look, you know, am I technically writing these? And they said, well, no, it's actually still Gary's music. So I was like, oh no. Yeah, so because you're technically using his music, and you just, so I was like, oh. Anyway, it all worked out. It all worked out. But in a long, you know, in a long and kind of painful, drawn out kind of 11 months of just going, oh my god. But it was quite intense. I mean, I literally did not stop. I had 4 or 5 hours sleep every night, and that was about it. For about.
Did the first night feel like I'm here and we're you know?
Well, we only had one rehearsal with the orchestra and Gary, but I was there for 4 days beforehand with him at the Royal Northern, because Studio One's underneath, and it's a bespoke studio for bands and recording, and it was only until we'd actually heard the orchestra with the band, me and Gary looked at each other and we sort of collectively breathed a sigh of relief.
Yeah.
Like, and you know, and literally we're on tour the next day, and we're all in the bar and we're all drinking, just going, oh my god, thank God it worked, because it was an experiment. It was, I mean, this was why Gary was like really reluctant to throw loads of money at it, because if it had, and I knew that the whole of Gary's career, what happened, because 1981, of course, was like the apex of his career. You know, and but then his American agents going, "What are you doing, mate? You know, farewell tour. What's this? What are you? Are you having a laugh or what?"
Yeah. 91.
So basically, like, since then, his career he went, as you know, and then like with Savage and it's been like steadily going up. Now we meet him about here, like sort of 60% of the way up, and it's like, well, look, it could either go up or it could go down. And I knew that I would possibly be the one that would either help him go up or go down as far as this tour was concerned. So I was, I felt the responsibility,
Yeah,
big time.
but it really did work, didn't it?
I think the great thing about Gary's music is it's got this cinematic kind of all-encompassing kind of dark industrial kind of. There's so many elements in so many of the tracks that I had this wonderful opportunity to enhance. Because what I didn't want to do was to go, well, like orchestra and Gary, ask them.
Yeah.
And so what I tried to do was to integrate everything into a sort of so the sound spectrum would because obviously for one we're in concert halls, so I kind of needed to hit everyone's we all needed to hit everyone cerebrally, so that it was like all the places we were going, like consoles, like Gary doesn't really do consoles, does he? Gary Numan and the band, of course, and orchestra, yes. The songs, but then and then the light show as well.
Yeah.
And with Luke at Q Design, who do you know about what's happened to him?
No.
All right. I believe he's really, really ill at the moment, but
right.
I think he's have a few operations and stuff. But
anyway,
that's another thing. But yeah, so we had all these things to hit everybody, and I knew that if I got everybody at the beginning, which is why it took 4 months to do replicas properly, then we would grab everyone at the beginning and then keep them, and literally at the end have them in a puddle at the end, just sort of emotionally like, hopefully, but just engaging everybody right from the start was basically my job, to get that right, I think.
Because replicas has changed a lot over the years from the original version.
Of course. Yeah. I actually prefer the original.
Well, but there's from the because he started playing it live in America in 1980.
Right.
And there's some good recording. There's a good radio show, two radio shows actually. One in Sydney, which is brilliant. If you ever get a chance to have a listen to it, you should do. But then when he didn't play it again for long time. Must have been 2000s, maybe a little bit earlier. He started to play it again. Maybe a bit earlier, I can't quite remember. But it suddenly came back a lot more powerful and up to date with what he was doing at the time.
Right. Because it always used to be the entrance of the band, wasn't it?
Yeah, to a degree, yeah. It was a sort of karaoke version.
Well, with that in mind, that is also why I tried not to give it away too early what it was.
Oh, right.
You see what I
mean? Yeah.
Otherwise, people because I kind of wanted them to sort of listen to the build up to it, and then because obviously we had the kabuki drop. I mean, I don't know if you were there, but the Japanese kabuki, came down the curtain. So that kind of had to be da dee da dee da dee da da.
Yeah.
That had to be the like, oh my god, it's the band, it's Gary Numan,
Because when he used to open to it, but in the 70s, 79, 80, that was an instrumental, and it was a slightly slower, pure synth version of it. So
right, yes,
which would start with a long drone synth. I don't know. Have you ever heard it?
Yeah. Well, the original. Yeah.
But I meant the actual intro to the shows.
I think I did. A couple of shows that I've watched. I mean, honestly, I do apologize, Stephen, but like there was. I mean, I was doing all the research into that, and I can't even remember which one it was, but
there's hundreds, isn't there?
Yeah,
exactly. Once you start looking for things.
Yeah. Yeah, like I know you got people's phones, and I was like, oh god.
Talk about it. But then,
man.
I mean, which show was the last night of your one? Was it the
The last one was unfortunate. I say unfortunately because I did actually say to Gary, like, Gary, please don't let us have like anything else like on the day after the Albert Hall, because you've got to imagine after Royal Albert Hall, anything's going to be crap.
Well, yeah.
And it happened to be Glasgow. Now, what happened was that we had the tour van, because I was driving the tour van as well, so we're really on a budget.
Right. Okay.
And it was parked in the bottom of the Albert Hall, I don't know if you know. But anyway, so me and my partner Michelle, who was basically looking after the orchestra as well, I said, like, I'm going to be having a few drinks tonight. Is it all right if you drive
all the way to Glasgow?
yeah, well, but no, but we're going to share the driver, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, she's like, well, on this occasion, you know, I'm like, oh, come on, you know, it's like, yeah. Anyway, so we I'm like, right, we're in the van, we've got the van, we've done it, we're out of London. I'm like, okay, right, heading down the M25, and I'm like, right, okay, don't forget, you know, M4, yeah, right. So, and I fall asleep, right, and I'm woken up and I like feel the shoving, like I'm like, what? And I see this like signs for Bristol going over. So she's gone down the M4, not the M40. So up the M40.
Yeah.
And she's like, I think we're in the wrong place. I'm like, oh
yeah.
Oh no. It took us 9 hours to get to Glasgow. We turn up just as they're sound checking, and I'm not happy. And it's the only time I have ever like become a diva, and because it was raining when we got there, and there's a one-way system around the concert hall, and I just and SJM were amazing with us on tour, and we had a wonderful. Do you know Andy the tour?
No, I don't. No.
Oh right. Well, we had this amazing guy, but he said, "Well, look, Royal Albert Hall's my last gig, but I've got one of my colleagues, so." On the way up, I'd said, well, look, we're going to be a bit late. Can you possibly get my dressing room ready? Absolutely no problem. Absolutely no problem. Yeah, great. An hour before, have you got my dressing room ready? Yeah, go. Fine. Right. Turn up, he's not there. So I'm like, where's my dressing room? And like, I like, as soon as I said it, I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, everyone.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was at the I was so knackered.
Yeah,
we driven like I couldn't blame Michelle, you know. But it was just like, why are we here? And then when we were on stage, it was middle of the set, and they have Oren, who is Oren Karpovsky, who's so David Brooks's keyboard tech.
Oh,
well, he said, well, look, we've got like 7 hard drives in case things cut out. We've just got one backup. But so I'm there, and I've got these in-ear monitors like this, and we're going like, oh, let's get to the end so we can have a drink and like have a boogie and whatever, and just right, whatever. Forget this gig tonight.
Yeah.
And it was made worse because the audience were not allowed to stand up. They had been told, the security had been told that they were not allowed to stand up. So the audience were livid, and Gary was like, "Come on!" and he was getting more. Anyway, like, so we're in the middle, and so I've got the music going on, and you know what, like the Death Star, and you've got and Obi-Wan goes up to shut it all down. He goes, like, well, that's what happened in my ears. It just went, oh, and I can see like everyone's eyes like getting wide. And Gary comes up behind my neck and says, "Don't worry, Si. This kind of thing happens all the time normally." I'm like, to who? like what? And anyway, so but literally, I don't know. Oren comes on, and he's like scrabbling away on the laptop, blah blah blah, and apparently no one noticed.
Really?
Because it was the end of a song, and
Ah.
somehow it's sort of they started up again. Like, what's going? It's like this is not meant to happen, this gig, I know. So yeah, so it was a bit fraught.
But you got through it. You got through it.
Yeah, we got through it. It was also, we were on automatic pilot, I think. Then anyway,
I think you actually done an amazingly fantastic job, and there's no two ways about it. So you know,
well, yeah, adrenaline does a lot of things for me. Adrenaline and fear.
Yeah, I think it's more fear.
Yeah, more fear. Yeah. Brown trousers time, definitely. But no, the thing was like the main place where I was the most fearful was Cardiff, St David's Hall, because we literally only had rehearsed once with the orchestra, so that St David's Hall was kind of like the dress rehearsal.
Yeah.
So, but that went well, and then so Birmingham went incredibly well, but that's when all the shenanigans with the parties and stuff happened, and the raiding the tour buses and going to Birmingham city centre and acting like lunatics. It was a bit silly.
It's rock and roll.
Yeah.
When you're younger.
I'm management. I don't do that sort of thing. Not, yeah. But,
do you foresee yourself doing anything again with other people on that sort of thing?
What with Gary again?
Well, maybe Gary or other people, or
yeah. I mean, hopefully. I mean, we did speak about something like at the end of the tour, but everyone says, I guess everyone says that, don't they? Like, oh, we'd love to do something. But I think obviously with COVID, you know, basically what's done is taken the block. Everybody's work has just gone out the window. Yeah. And there's no way of shunting that forward so that you can go, well, let's do the stuff we should have done. No, it's gone. That's it. Boom, out. So I thought, well, it's going to be 2026, 27 before we do anything with anybody, really. But you know, I made the Skaparis Easter happen. I made it happen. I found the right, and because it's so important to just keep that connection and keep that, you know, keep people, the players and the audience, just knowing, well, yeah, we're still here. You know, we're still ready to do stuff, and you know. But no, I'm working with DJ Jay Weirden for the opening of well, not the opening, but the kind of the revamp of Gorilla, which is the nightclub in Manchester.
Oh,
right. The famous. So I'm doing like 6 dance tracks for him. So like, so it's going to be pretty, with the Skaparis, but like with a full like horn section and stuff. So. Oh man, is like I'm into my dance stuff just as much. Yeah. Because I mean, a lot of metalheads are really into rap as well. I mean, I was massive into Cypress Hill, Onyx, you know, Ice-T, you know, all these guys, you know, Public Enemy, you know, there's something about the drive and the beat and connection and the you know, the sort of almost what's the word, being a pariah, you know, in society. But
I think
I mean, yeah, go on, sorry.
No, I was going to say
easy. Basically, I was my photographer Paul Dixon. I did a gig, and he was the official photographer, and he it was in 2017. He said, "Hey, Si, do you know Gary Numan's looking to work with an orchestra?" And or yeah, something about orchestra and Gary Numan. And I said, "Oh, right. Well, everyone kind of wants to work with an orchestra at the moment because everyone kind of was. It was a bit trendy to do." And I was like, oh yeah, because I, you know, keeping the metal and the orchestral aside, you know, I never wanted them to meet in the middle. But then he said, well, look, I've got his agent's email. Do you want it? And I was like, oh god, why not? And so I sent him a letter saying, sent Gary a letter via his agent and said, look, I've got an orchestra, you know, the Skaparis. You know, used to be, well, I shouldn't have said used to. No, I said I'm still a big fan of yours. Not, I used to be a big fan of yours. I'm still a fan of yours. You know, how about it, kind of thing, and didn't think anything of it. And then a week later, I got an email back, which I've still got in a frame.
Oh, right, brilliant.
Yeah, saying, "Hi Simon, it's Gary. Lovely to hear from you." I was like, "Oh my god, I've got an email from Gary Numan. What's going on?" But then he was so humble and so nice, and so he's like, "Look, I'm a poor musician at best, and I have no idea where to start, and how does one go about it?" And so I basically said, "Hi Gary, look, what we can do is send you a demo." So I got me and Simon, I wrote a sort of intro into Ghost Nation, and then sent that off to him, and he liked that, and then he said, "Right, okay, so how do we start?" And blah, blah, blah. And that's what happened, really.
But did you actually find? I mean, I know Gary always says he's not much of a player on anything. But I was talking to Chris Payne about this not so long ago. Something like Down in the Park on Replicas, where Gary played everything. And Chris Payne says, Down in the Park isn't that easy to play as it would seem like it should be.
No, it's not. Not. I can vouch for it.
Right,
it's not.
good.
Yeah. And it's in a really funny key as well. It's just... but what I find amazing about his lyrics and his for instance, like whenever we were rehearsing or like sound checking, there's a picture of we're going to release a photo album, book album thing for via our website, which I put together for the Bridgewater Hall. Because I've got the IP for all the photos, and basically it was there's a photo of us just about to start a song, but there's Steve Harris, there's Tim and me, and there's Richie in the sort of background, and I'm just about to put my phones in, but he's the one, you can tell he's the leader, he's the one who sort of, he will get all these amazing people together, but he will be the one that galvanizes everything together. He will sort of go, well, I kind of want this, I kind of want that, and everyone goes, ooh, does their own thing, and it comes together, boom, bang, and then he goes, right, okay, we're going to do this, and that's what I really admired about him. He's got a way of, he's got an incredible leadership, like sense of kind of,
It's weird when he first signed to Beggars, and I was talking to Martin Mills about this.
Beggars Banquet. It's Beggars Banquet, is it?
Yeah. And Gary'd only just signed to him or whatever. And he said, look, Gary says he wants a mini Moog, and he said, well, we haven't got the money, sort of thing.
Right.
And I said, well, didn't you just say no? He said, you can't say no to Gary Numan. And I thought, he was 19 at the time, and you couldn't say no to him. So
no, I couldn't say no to him. I don't think anyone I've met has ever been able to say no to him.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, man.
Anyway,
cool. Well, Stephen, thank you.
Simon, that's been absolute pleasure on my behalf, mate. I really appreciate that. It's really, really good.